right, welcome back, guys. Last video, we talked about this 2007 Chevy Tahoe LTZ. I talked about all of its awesome features that came with it. I know it had a lot of features for 2007. It may not have been a huge deal for more modern vehicles. However, in 2007, this thing was just crazy loaded. However, that said, there are things that are wrong with it, and I want to talk about in this video. So this is everything that is wrong with my 2007 Chevy Tahoe LTZ. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started with everything that's wrong with the exterior of this vehicle. Then we're going to go ahead and jump inside and kind of talk through everything. So I'm not sure if you caught in the last video any of the exterior issues. The biggest one is actually right here. So this is a massive hole that the dealership I bought it from actually didn't even notice until I came and test drove it. So what I think happened here is a pickup truck backed into it with a hitch, and you can see actually it did hit this this impact bar in the back a little bit. I don't think it actually is an issue or anything like that, but we might replace that at some point. So I am trying to figure out what I want to do with this, if I'm going to replace this whole bumper. I have seen aftermarket you can buy fully painted bumpers, so I could get this paint to sample and replace this titanium dark blue, and you'd never even notice it is there. I am also thinking about off-road bumpers, or possibly even just repairing this myself and just doing like plastic welding, that kind of stuff. So this is probably the most noticeable issue with it. This is one of the reasons why I was able to get such a good deal on this SUV. So other things that are wrong on the exterior of this vehicle, so there are little dents and dings all throughout it. There's nothing major outside of that hole in the front bumper that I talked about earlier. All throughout the vehicle, there really aren't any massive dents like I had in my Ram, as we talked about in the other video about that vehicle before I sold it. However, yeah, just little dents and dings. It's not that big of a deal. However, something maybe we can get cleaned up as a part of this project. Another issue I found with the exterior of this vehicle is actually its door. I think it's off a little bit. So basically when you close it, you can kind of hear it closes a little bit different than the other doors. I'm not sure if you can hear it. Whereas that's a little bit more solid. You open this one up, and it kind of like just moves upward ever so slightly. I think it just needs raised up a little bit and tightened down. So that is just one issue. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't bother me that much. However, it is something we can get fixed. So those are the cosmetic issues on the exterior of the vehicle. The only mechanical issue I've seen so far, and was another thing we were able to use to negotiate such a good price on this, it does need front struts, unfortunately. I am hearing a little bit of rattling coming from the front end when I was test driving it, and continue to after buying it. I think it is a strut mount on the front end right here on this wheel, and so we do actually have to get that replaced at some point, and we'll probably do that here shortly. So with that, that's really the only issues I have with the exterior of the vehicle, and mechanically it really isn't that big of a deal, and it is things that I feel confident we can get repaired and fixed for a reasonable price. So let's go ahead and jump inside the interior, and I'm going to show you the rest of the stuff. So as for the interior, there isn't a ridiculous amount of issues. So one of the biggest thing really is the carpeting. So while this may be the driver's side, I don't think it's ever had a floor mat in it. So you can actually see it's gotten worn through to the metal right there. Pretty much all of the floors are all the same way. They're all kind of stained and have issues and that kind of stuff. So honestly, the carpeting in this vehicle is pretty shot. So what I want to do is get it cleaned up and put in some nice floor mats, and that should be happening soon. Another issue is, of course, as you can see with a lot of these, if you do any shopping for this vehicle, these buttons are generally always worn out. They do work fine. However, they just wear out from the driver constantly using them. So another issue that was actually fixed by the dealership before I bought it was there was a rip right here, and then there was a rip right here. As you can see, though, it has been repaired. However, it's not, you know, perfect, which is unfortunate. I don't think that's ever going to get completely resolved unless I spend a lot of money and a lot of time getting that repaired. And then another problem that I saw that actually is an issue with a lot of these is they do have kind of worn out handles right here. So you can see the chrome is kind of flaking off. Pretty much all of the different handles all throughout the car, that is flaking off. Oh, and one thing I forgot about that I realized as I was driving away is it actually does have these cracks in the dash. So you can kind of see it right there, and you can see it right there. This is a common issue. I pretty much have seen it in every single Chevy Tahoe or GMC Yukon I've test drove. So with that, realistically, that is everything that is wrong with the Chevy Tahoe. It is not a ton. It's not that big of a deal. And honestly, For what this is, there isn't a ton I have to do to it to be able to get it back to what it should be. So I'm really excited about that. I'm going to be going through, I'm going to be fixing this up. I'm going to do a video later on that's all about the different modifications I plan on doing with this SUV. And then of course, you're going to be able to go along with me as I put those modifications on. I actually did want to talk a little bit about what the dealership did for me in fixing this vehicle. So one of the nice things about going to a dealership, even though I generally feel like you don't get as good of a deal, is the fact that this dealership did go through and fix quite a few different things. So I want to talk about that just so you know what kind of things have been fixed recently on this SUV. So the first thing and the biggest thing is the air ride suspension. So air ride suspensions in this, if they were equipped in this generation, the GMT 900, it was complete garbage. Sure, it worked really, really well, was really nice for towing and that kind of stuff. However, now that these are all starting to age, this has the air ride suspension in just the rear, not in the front, just in the rear. And they've been going out, and what happens is they start to kind of squat down, you get error messages and all that kind of stuff. So the dealership actually found out about this, and this was actually something I was planning on doing this exact vehicle. However, they beat me to it, which I was really stoked about, is they replaced it and turned it into a passive suspension instead of air ride suspension. So basically what that means is basically bypassing. So there's a little electronic component that you hook into the air suspension that tricks it into thinking that it still has the air ride, so it doesn't throw error messages onto your dash. And then what you do is you just put a standard spring suspension into this vehicle. So the nice thing about that is that this just makes it so much more reliable. Sure, you can fix the air ride suspension. However, you're just going to run into more and more problems. It is one of the most expensive things to be able to fix on this, and it happens to all of them that I have seen. Every time I saw one of these, I would ask them, hey, does this have the air ride suspension? They're like, yeah, sure, it has the air ride suspension. I'm like, is it throwing a service light? And they're like, yep, it does. So it's just honestly every single one I have found. I really wanted these nicer, higher end with all the options, backup cameras, sunroofs, all that kind of stuff. But when you get into that level of these SUVs, they all had that air ride suspension. So I was really excited when I heard that, hey, we went ahead and replaced it with the passive suspension. It saved me $1,700 and saved me a lot of time because it did get fixed and it's not going to be an issue anymore. They also, of course, did fix that rip in the seat, as I talked about a little bit earlier, right there and right there. However, they did actually fix a little bit of electrical issue. So this little display right here was not working anymore. So they fixed that. They also, around back, they fixed the little latch. Another common issue with these is this right here, this button stops working. I don't remember if it was the one for the whole hatch or if it was just for the window. However, they did fix that as well, which was really, really nice. Oh, I actually forgot about one more issue, and that actually comes down to the tires. This does have the Cooper Discover AT3 tires, which are actually really nice tires. However, these were put on by the previous owner and not by the dealership. However, they were relatively new, but I think the old owner made some mistakes and tried to hide it. So I actually went to a tire shop. I had them take a look at it because I had some concerns about the tire because there was a little bit of rubbing on them and there was a little bit of a hole. Let me go ahead and show you that really quick. So this is that hole I was telling you about. When I was talking to the tire shop, they said it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't all the way through. I was thinking it was actually a manufacturer issue. However, after they were looking at it, they realized that this tire had been spray painted. So the previous owner was planning on trading this SUV in. So what they did is they spray painted it. You can actually see a little bit of it came off of my finger there. And so they spray painted it so it looked like all the other tires, which is actually really funny. However, according to the tire shop that I talked to, honestly, they say it's not a big deal as long as there's no wires showing. So these are relatively new tires. They said probably has like 5,000 to 10,000 miles on it. So it's not an issue, but it is just something that's funny, and that was an issue with this SUV. And finally, let's just talk about preference issues. It's really not too big of a deal. These are things that, you know, I just don't prefer all that much on this vehicle, but it's not actually truly an issue. And that honestly is the chrome. So this thing has quite a bit of chrome on it. 2007, they still liked their chrome. So it has chrome grills, chrome handles, and all that kind of stuff. It's not a big deal. I can get over it. However, that is just a preference thing that I have an issue with. And then finally, as I talked about in the last video, this thing doesn't have a ton of room in the third row, which is a little bit disappointing. I think that our 2013 Ford Explorer actually has more room in the back seat and just fits people a little bit better. So I wasn't super impressed by that. And then of course, right here, let's put this up. is it just doesn't have a ton of room back here. As I was going into, you can kind of see the carpeting back here is pretty bad and just messed up. So I am excited to get that looked into. But as for actual cargo room, there isn't a ton back. You do have to take those third row seats out to get any more room. And I'll be honest, the Ford Explorer we have has more cargo room, even though it's a smaller SUV. So with that said, that is everything that is wrong with this SUV. This is going to be a fun project. Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned, and make sure you get notified when new videos come up. In the next video is going to be talking about modifications and my plans for this SUV. So make sure to subscribe, make sure to like this video. It really helps me out when you like it, because it does show that video to more people and helps me out a ton. So anyways, that is everything that is wrong with my 2007 Chevy Tahoe, and I am really excited for this build. With that said, thank you guys. Have a great one. Bye.